Welcome, fellow Disney fan. I'm not a Disney fan. You can't tell I'm not a Disney fan. You can't tell I'm a Disney fan. I am definitely a Disney fan. This guy that's with me is a little more incognito as a Disney fan. I am Jolly Julian, and the person with me is
Nick. I feel like I need a more fun name.
Yeah. If I'm Jolly Julian, what would Nick be?
Well,
nice Nick?
Maybe
Naughty Nick?
on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, I go by Grim Grinning Nick. I don't know if that's
Grim
fun.
I like Grim Grinning
So,
Nick.
I don't know if I want to pull that in here.
Oh man! I mean, you're
a nice grim grin.
You're playing to my favorite ride. Spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know that already, Haunted Mansion. But we are here to share our love for Disney, but to share it from kind of a unique point of view, or should I say two unique-ish points of view, in that we both approach doing Disney in a different way. Largely because I am single, I have no children, I tend to go on my vacations to Disney World by myself or with my parents and my sister, who's are obviously adults themselves. Whereas Nick, you travel very differently, don't you?
I do. I travel with my family. I'm married. I have 3 kids, so it's a big ol' ordeal, a big fun ordeal. And it's definitely different as someone who's also gone as just an adult without kids. It's a very different planning process.
It is very different. I didn't realize that you had done Disney by yourself as an adult as well. So yeah, we may have some things to talk about there and the differences that's been for you going with your family. But that's kind of how we're going to be approaching these particular topics, is from each one of us approaching it in a slightly different way. Today, though, we have a very special episode because each of us very recently just got back from a Disney trip separately. So I went, actually Nick went before I did by about a month, maybe 3 weeks or a month. And then I went, and we're going to be comparing some notes, which we have not done yet. I mean, we've been back for a little while now, not very long. We have not had a chance to talk and compare our notes. We figured we're going to do that right here for your amusement. Or at least for you to watch and multitask. So, Nick, this was something we talked about doing fairly early on when we discovered we were going to be taking this trip together. What was your favorite thing about planning to do this conversation together?
Well, I'm one of those insane Disney fans who likes all the planning. So one of my favorite parts was also the more stressful parts. Is this wasn't just a family trip, my wife and kids. This was my dad's 70th birthday and Christmas trip, since my dad was born on Christmas Eve. So it was a big, long 2-week, the longest stay I've ever done on property with one of the biggest groups I've ever gone with. And I was kind of point on the planning side. So there was a lot of fun trying to navigate those details. Yeah. Sometimes it was a little stressful, but I don't know. The planning also helps narrow the gap between visits, the more you can kind of think. And
now that's an interesting, let's start with that. Yeah. I mean, today we're going to talk kind of about our experiences in the parks themselves, but that just sparked an interesting question. I love what you said, because the woman I'm dating, that's one of the things that she loves about a vacation is the planning, because you have the anticipation, you get to look forward to it, as it almost extends the vacation in a way. Mm-hmm. I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, I don't need to plan. I want to go, man. I just want to go, and I want to get there, and then I want to figure it out when I'm there, which anyone who's done Disney in the last 5 to 10 years knows that that's gotten very, very hard to do. The way I used to prefer to do Disney is almost impossible to do in a lot of ways. But talk a little bit about that, being the planner, and why you enjoy that so much, and the anticipation it builds for you.
Yeah. It just puts you in that mindset. So you get to think about the trip. And actually, I live in Michigan. The rest of the family that I went on this trip with lives in 2 different states. So sometimes we kind of, more and more time goes in between where there's a phone call or we're getting together. So the planning for this, we actually had to talk a lot more. I sometimes had to convince people, we kind of have to decide which day during this 2 weeks we want to go to specific restaurants. is weird for non-Disney people, but if you want to get your dining reservation, especially those last 2 weeks of December, you have to be ready to make those dining reservations, which is a bit of a challenge. I had some help with the travel agent, but I also like to be in there with those details. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I do hope, and it does seem like Disney's making it a little easier to plan as the park reservations, because that was tough. I think people who aren't used to going or went before the park reservations really don't want to have to decide how many times are we going to Magic Kingdom or which parks are we going to. Can't we wake up, decide, or once we're there? Yeah.
Right.
So I wish there was a little bit more of that spontaneity in there, which it does feel like it's coming back. I get why they put that in place, and I'm glad that it's going away.
Yeah,
or it's already gone.
I'm the same way. I like that spontaneity. I like being able to wake up and you know what? Spoiler alert. We got another spoiler. Today is full of spoiler alerts. Spoiler alert number 1, I love the Haunted Mansion. Spoiler alert number 2, one of our upcoming episodes is going to be walking through the planning process of putting these vacations together and how different our approaches are and the specifics of what we are sure to do and what things we maybe are a little flexible on, because there are certain absolutes when you're prepping, at least, from my point of view. We haven't even talked and shared that yet, but I already know from the things that Nick has shared with me that we have very different ways of planning our vacations, largely out of necessity when you're planning for as many people as he did. So just so our viewers know, without going into great detail, how many people were you traveling with?
It was 12.
Sheesh.
So some of you are also cringing, especially if you've had to make an advanced dining reservation with a party bigger than 8, because you can't do it. You have to do 2 parties of 6, and that's really where the travel agent helps. They can do that for you, but we'll talk more about that in detail. But 12
Absolutely.
it's tough to move through the parks in a group of 12. Yeah.
See, and that opens a whole can of worms of just managing the expectations of each of the 12 people. Like, everyone probably wants to do different things and has different interests and different, man, I thought it was rough coordinating for 4. I can't wait to talk about that upcoming episode. It's going to be one of the next ones coming up here. So very, very soon, next episode or 2 from now, we will probably be getting into that planning of these trips. Because again, 2 trips so close together, it really gives us a great opportunity here. So what we were figuring we would do today, though, is we would dive into some of the parks and talk about our experiences specific to this vacation and how they differ from each other's approach to the parks with the different number of people and the different, family versus family. I mean, it really is. My family just happens to be an older family. Nick's is a younger family, and how those plans differ in each of the parks. And when we started planning for this, and we started taking notes on our own, and Nick would email and say, "Oh, I've got a whole bunch of notes. I want to talk about all these things." I'm like, "Yeah, I got a whole bunch of notes too." We planned on doing all 4 parks in one episode, and we realized, no, we're just going to be rushed. We're only going to be able to touch on the surface, and this is really about getting into the nitty-gritty details. So we decided to do 2 parks today, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What parks did we decide on, and why, from your point of view?
What we decided on: Disney's Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom has a lot going on, and here's my first spoiler. We went 3 times during this trip, which not my choice, but we got to go with the flow of the family.
Yep.
So there's a lot to talk about with Magic Kingdom. There's a lot of things that have changed since the time before I went, and some upcoming changes that I think will be fun to compare notes. And then Hollywood Studios is a fun park to talk about. There's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years too.
Yeah. Positive and maybe not quite so positive. And I'm sure we'll get into some of those details as well. And those happen to be, I mean, Hollywood Studios happens to be, I think, my favorite park. It's really hard to say. It really is. But that's why I'm glad we're getting to talk about that one today. So we're going to do those 2 parks today. And then we're going to do Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and Disney Springs on our next episode, because someone didn't get to go to Animal Kingdom on their trip.
Maybe you can figure out who.
Oh, I feel bad for that person because, I'd be sure to go. No, again, you had 12 people to deal with, and you apparently went to the Magic Kingdom 3 times. So we will be talking Animal Kingdom because I've got a few things to say about that one that surprised me a little bit on this vacation. So I'm excited to talk about that. Let's get ready to dive in to the Magic Kingdom and Disney Hollywood Studios. As we said, we're going to start with the Magic Kingdom. Part of the reason we decided to start with the Magic Kingdom is because it's the OG Disney. It's the classic. It's really hard not to love the Magic Kingdom because it's the one that, those of us who have been fortunate enough to go multiple times and at multiple, let's say, decades of our lives, we have very nostalgic feelings for that. So why don't you start us off, Nick, with kind of what your trip to the Magic Kingdom was like.
Yeah.
Well, pick one of the 3, apparently, or combine them however you want.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons we went 3 times was, there were 2 reasons. One was my family of 5 snuck down 2.5 days early before everyone else. So we decided to go to Magic Kingdom, just the 5 of us, make sure we were hitting everything. The time we went, it is amazing how every day the entire Disney World resort is just a little busier. Every day it gets closer to New Year's Eve. So we got down and got to go to the Magic Kingdom on the 22nd, just the 5 of us, and explore and make sure we could just take our times and kind of be selfish in some regard of doing what we wanted to do so that it was easier to just make sure the people who don't get to go to Disney World. We actually had one person in our party who had never gone, and my parents hadn't gone in almost 20 years, so we wanted to make sure they got to do everything they wanted to do. So it was them that wanted to do the Magic Kingdom twice, because in their minds, that is Disney World, and I think that's true for a lot of people. When they picture Disney World, they picture that castle, and I picture Spaceship Earth.
Well, we kind of have an idea of what your favorite park might be.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So we can kind of even compare those 3 days depending on how we want to divide this up. But I will say overall, for all 3 trips, Disney World knows this is when people are coming down, and it really felt like they wanted to make sure the crowds had plenty to do to spread out. And the first example of that is us trying to decide which way we want to go down Main Street, and there was Snow White by Town Square Theater just doing meet and greets, and nobody was really there. There was like a family waiting while the other family, so it was right in there on a fairly busy December day. We were able to meet a character right from the beginning, which is still, from my kids right now are 2, 7, and 10. They love meeting all the characters, even if they don't recognize them. It's just a fun experience. So that was one of the first things. We thought we were going to go meet Mickey Mouse, and we got to meet Snow White on the way to meeting Mickey Mouse.
How fantastic. And so that brings up a great question then for, this is partially for me because I'm not even sure who you traveled with and what the different ages were. You already mentioned that your parents who hadn't been there in 20 years. You had someone who was with you that had never been, and then you got your kids. So walk us just quickly through the family dynamic here.
So my wife and I with our 3 kids that I just said their ages, then my sister and her family, so they have teenagers. They've only gone once, I think, with their kids, and they're huge Star Wars fans, and they went right in that, I'm going to say, odd time where Galaxy's Edge opened, but I don't think Smuggler's Run had opened yet, or maybe Rise. I forget which attraction opened first, but they definitely didn't experience Galaxy's Edge to its full potential, so we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Nice.
And then one of my other nephews came down, and he's 21, and he'd never gone. So that was a lot of fun, seeing him kind of experience it and seeing what would be his favorite attractions.
Yeah, what a fascinating age to be your first time in Disney. 21.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes, and he also loves Star Wars, so he was excited about that. But Magic Kingdom was the first park that we all went to on this trip, and Tomorrowland was the first area we went to, and I don't know, sometimes I get nervous about sharing some of the attractions that people don't think about. So when we all went on Carousel of Progress, I hope everyone likes it.
I love it.
And then everyone seemed to really like it. Some people went on that again, while the people who were able to go on Tron did that, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Some people didn't love how much some of us were singing the
It's a great big
beautiful
you know what?
tomorrow.
Yep.
Just shut up!
So we had fun with that. Whether people liked the song or not, there might have been a sibling that didn't like it and a sibling that was using it as a slow form of torture. But it was fun.
I love it. Well, what a great dynamic. For myself, I went down with my sister, who is 3 years younger than I am. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm not a spring chicken. Let's put it that way. And with my two parents, who I'm very fortunate to still have in my life. And what we love about it so much is that we are all Disney fans. We grew up together going there. You know, the first time I got to go there, I was very young. I was 6 years old, I think, 5, 6 years old. And so it's a place that we can all go and we all enjoy being there. There's stuff there that we all enjoy doing. And frankly, we always know we're going to get a great experience because it's Disney. They go, regardless of number of people, regardless of rides coming and going that we love and all those things, we always know that we're going to have a great experience because the people that work at Disney are so very good at what they do. And they bend over backwards to make sure that you're having a wonderful experience. And at some point, we may talk about whether we've had any experiences where that was not the case. And that probably was a surprise. It probably was something that, snapped us out of the experience a little bit because it happens so rarely. So I got to go, the four of us, all adults, which definitely changes the dynamic a lot, especially since we've been there quite a bit. My sister has an annual pass. She typically goes 2 or 3 times a year by herself. She's a solo traveler and she absolutely loves it. My parents used to have annual passes. They don't go quite as frequently now. They go maybe once a year, once every 2 years. But we all know the parks extraordinarily well, so we don't even have to guess kind of what we're going to want to do when we're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Knowing the parks well is interesting because when you are in a big group and you're trying to figure out like where bathrooms are and break off here and there,
Yep.
Sometimes I would get a face and like, your landmarks or your directions do nothing for me.
Yeah, because we know
it's
the names
there.
of like all the shops and everything. And it's like, go down to the, and turn right at the yeah.
Yes.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes. So that was fun to try to navigate. But fortunately, sometimes it was just the signs can help direct you and we'll just meet over here. But it took a little while to realize we don't have to all move together as a group of 12. We can kind of explore Main Street and meet back here or pick which rides we want to all go on together.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, that kind of dynamic is important to have. So I'm going to start with kind of the beginning of the experience of the Magic Kingdom. Now, we did not go into the Magic Kingdom the first day, so I'm not doing this chronologically, at least not from my point of view. I believe we did Disney Hollywood Studios the first day. But when the first thing we did when we got to the Magic Kingdom, obviously we are staying off property. All right. I know there are an awful lot of people watching this right now that are going, "How dare you? How dare you?" We'll get into why. We'll get into the philosophies of that when we get to the planning of the trip episode that's going to be coming up here soon. Because, Nick, I believe you guys stayed on property the entire time, right?
We sure did, yes.
You sure did. And there's pluses to that. There's absolute definite pluses to that. Not just the beauty of the hotels and so forth, but other perks that come with that. But because we stayed off property, we had to get up and we rented a car. So we took the car in and we parked at the TTC, the Transportation and Ticket Center. We grabbed the monorail because it was a little cool when we were down there. I don't know about you. Temperature was, for Florida, chilly. It was 44 degrees a couple of the mornings that we got up and got going.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we were hoping some of our resort days would be pool days. One of them was, and that was more of a this is our only shot. We had a nice, really warm day that was already. This is that spontaneous. We probably would have switched to park day for a resort day if there wasn't the reservations because it was a nice, really sunny day all day once. And not that that's a bad thing in the Magic Kingdom, but when we saw the rest of the forecast, it was like that was like the only real pool day.
That was our shot.
Yeah.
That was our shot. Yeah, that is another downside to the reservations, which they're getting away. I think they're starting to move away from that, which is a good thing. But so we got to the TTC. We decided to take the monorail. Normally, we would like to take the ferry. I always loved the ferry ride across. We took the monorail because it was a little chillier, and then we got to the Magic Kingdom, and there's always that moment, as you're pulling into the monorail station and you're looking out the window and you see the castle, you see Main Street, you see that beautiful train station there just beckoning you to come in. And you get out, you walk down the little monorail ramp there, and there is that beautiful train station and the Mickey Mouse floral arrangement there out in the front. It just gets you. It pulls you in immediately, and you're already starting to move into this other experience. We go in through security. So we got through there very quickly, and then we went in the main area there to Main Street, and of course, as I think I mentioned this on our previous episode, but I don't remember if I did for sure. My dad has a spot that he stands every single time he goes into the Magic Kingdom. It's a little thing on the ground, a little round, like almost kind of like placard, right when you go into Main Street on the left side as you're going in near City Hall. And he always stands there and just looks down Main Street, and that's kind of a tradition. It's a tradition. And we, of course, did that. So that was kind of what started our day off. Now, how different was the start to your day going into the Magic Kingdom with 12 people?
It was, and like we said, we'll talk more in detail, but really good that we were all able to just get to the bus stop and get on the bus and get right there. But it was, my dad got pulled aside in security, and he came back from it and was like, "Oh, they told me just if I have this visible, then I wouldn't go through." They just, I forgot what it was.
You had to hold it out in front of you as you went through or something, and then it knew what it was scanning, and they could see it. They told me that halfway through my trip that I could do that with my camera and the stabilizer.
Yeah, so they know they know you're gonna come to another park a different day or back to that one like we did, so that helped us get through more quickly the next few times that we visited. But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too crowded first getting in, but we didn't spend too much time in Main Street. I think we just wanted to get farther in because one of those perks, staying on property, we were able to get in a half hour before everyone else. It was early. They change the names all the time. Early morning magic, I think. So we were able to do that and headed right to Tomorrowland, and the first day we went, it was an obvious Tron's going to be way too busy, but we were able to get virtual for the second time that we went to Magic Kingdom for those of us that wanted to do Tron. And we went right onto Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin.
Buzz Lightyear.
Which
I love it.
I think is definitely, for people who've never been to Disney World, that attraction is much better if you do that one before you do Toy Story Midway Mania, because they're pretty similar, and I think one's a little better. Just
one is a little better than the other. Yeah,
but
sure.
It was really fun. This is a big part of Magic Kingdom and Disney World is like those feeling like a kid and that childlike joy. Well, just being the uncle trying to beat my teenage nephews and niece in getting a higher score was a lot of fun, and I definitely know how that blaster works better than they were able to figure out. So I don't remember my score. I was not a galactic hero, but
I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in you.
I did beat them.
You did beat them. Nice. And you know what? When you got kids traveling with you, anytime you can beat the child at anything that is,
video game,
hand-eye coordination, video gamey, you're doing something right. That's great.
But I know the right Zergs these days.
You do. You got a little knowledge going there. I like it.
But I still can't get the top score. I'm just not quick enough.
So now you brought up a question though. So you went in there. You went straight to Tomorrowland. Does that mean you don't do breakfast in the park?
We didn't. We were doing some snacking.
Okay.
We did some snacking to kind of get out. We are all like different age ranges. So you have teenagers who usually like to sleep in, so they might have eaten a little bit more. My kids get up really early, so we did have some light breakfast in the park. So we were able to do a couple of attractions. But before we left Tomorrowland, we had an early lunch in Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe.
Okay. Yeah.
Which was very, very busy. But we were able to get a seat, and Sunny Eclipse started playing, so that was just an extra thing
Bonus.
that you never know when it's going to happen, when it's going to work, but that was great. Yeah, my kids loved it. My kids have never eaten there, so it was kind of a new thing for almost the entire group, and that was the first time I've ever seen Sunny Eclipse in person.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, now that's interesting too. Now my brain's firing on all cylinders at how different our experience in the Magic Kingdom was. Two things to bring up on what was just spoken about is the food. We also didn't do breakfast in there. We get right in there. We want to get to something, and we'll talk about the fact that we went in the complete opposite direction you did. We'll talk about that in a moment. To go someplace, I'll bet none of you can guess where we might have gone first based on my favorite attraction. But another thing that was very different is how we do the meals. So traveling with two parents who are, they're in their mid-70s. They're not as young as they used to be. They don't get around as quickly and easily. I mean, fortunately, they're under their own power still, which is wonderful, and that's great. But we go a little slower. We're taking a little slower time. This is where we're soaking up the ambiance. We're smelling the flowers. We're sitting when we can, and chilling, which I've grown to really appreciate as somebody who's been fortunate enough to be to Disney enough times that, if I don't get to ride all the rides, I'm fine with that. There are only a few rides that, hey, I'll be kind of bummed if I don't get to ride it. But it's just being there in the environment, in the ambiance, getting to enjoy some of the little nooks and crannies that with children, you're just kind of sometimes running from place to place. Oh, we got to get here now. We got to ride this, and we got to, back in the Fast Pass days, we got 3 Fast Passes all stacked up, and now the lightning lanes and all that. So we actually do a sit-down meal when we go to the Magic Kingdom, especially if we're only going once on the trip, which we did this time. My father's favorite restaurant on property is the Liberty Tree Tavern. That is his favorite restaurant, largely because, he likes the ambiance of it. It's kind of a cool-looking restaurant with the old colonial, America look and feel. But more importantly, he loves the food and loves the fact that now, they don't call it all you can eat. I love the way they word it. All you care to eat.
All you care to enjoy.
All you care to enjoy. Thank you. That was it. All you care to enjoy. Not all you can eat, because that's just encouraging you to gorge. And, I love the way they word that. It's so classy.
Yeah. Don't forget, you can go back in the park. There's going to be a popcorn cart. You can get a premium
You don't
bar.
want to fill up now.
Yeah.
Even though you can. So all you care to eat, but I care to leave room for. Heck no, man. We're asking for more because they bring it to you on plates. It's not a go up and serve yourself. It's what do you call that? Family style, I think is what they
Family
call
styles
it.
when they bring
When they bring it to you, and but you're paying. I think it was $40, $45 a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap. So I am not afraid to ask for more, man. We would finish some stuff up. They'd come by and say, hey, bring us another plate of that, and another plate of that, and another plate of that, because we're still going. I'm not afraid to do that when you're forking that kind of money. But the food is wonderful. That's how we kind of do our food. Is we're finding spots to do some sit downs. It allows us to sit for an hour, a little more than an hour, and let my parents rest their feet a little bit. And just enjoy each other's company too. But if I were there with kids, they'd be bored stiff.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Come on, guys, we gotta go. We got Big Thunder Mountain. We got the Country Bear Jamboree. We got the Tiki Bird." No kid ever said we got to go ride the Tiki Birds. But anyway, that was the first thing you said that drew my attention. The second thing was where you went. You went immediately first to Tomorrowland. We went the other direction, and we scooted kind of partway through Adventureland and took a little bit of a right and headed over to Liberty Square, kept walking past those Hall of Presidents. It's fine. It's a good place for a nap. Actually, you know what? The Hall of Presidents is actually pretty good. It is a really good show.
You want to talk about the Hall of Presidents right now?
Well, all right, let me finish this.
Yes,
We're going
okay.
to circle back to that because we opened that door. So now we got to talk about that Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, those are fighting words.
Those are fighting words. It is a very, very good presentation. It really is. And for anyone who's a remote history buff, it is kind of cool. And for anyone who's not, you'll get a nice little nap in there, and it's air conditioned. You can have a nice time there. That's fine. But we went right past that, and we went to this little ride. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called the Haunted Mansion. We did the Haunted Mansion first. I was so happy. I always pull for that. I ask, what do you got? Oh, no, I'm wrong. I made a mistake. I remembered it wrong. We always do the Haunted Mansion first. But this time, you know what? Jolly Julian was a really good son. You know what he suggested? He said, Mom, I know that your favorite ride here is the Jungle Cruise, and it always has a long line. And I love you so much that I will sacrifice doing the Haunted Mansion first. And we'll go to the Jungle Cruise. We'll do the Jungle. We did the Jungle Cruise first.
What a sacrifice.
I know, right? I know. I'm so glad we did, because when we got in line, 30-minute wait. By the time we got off the ride, hour and a half. Hour and a half.
Yeah, that's a long wait for Jungle Cruise.
But then we went to the Haunted Mansion right after that, which was very nice. And we waited a little longer than usual for the Haunted Mansion, which I'm always glad to see because I want that to stay a popular attraction. But we waited like 40 minutes for the Haunted Mansion. Still worth every minute of wait. But that's kind of how we started our trip. So after your Tomorrowland, any other fantastic things that happened on that particular visit?
Well, for that first day, but like I said, we went on Tron, which was mind-blowing.
We should talk Tron.
Yeah.
Let's talk. That? We got to talk Tron. Okay. All right. You first.
Okay. So, not all of us went. There's no way my dad was going on there. My mom was iffy, so she did not because they are a little older. And then my wife gets some motion sickness, so it was just me, my brother-in-law, and then the teenagers. And that was so much fun. My niece and I got front row, and my niece loves coasters. The whole family that goes in that group loves roller coasters. So I was so glad we were able to get on it.
Yeah,
because I was prepared to not be able to, but then I was also like,
you don't want to get your hopes up too much.
If we're going to Magic Kingdom 3 times, we better get on Tron 1 time. And we did. So we were getting onto the light cycle, and my niece was just like, I've never been this scared to be on a roller coaster. I can't remember last time I've been this scared. And we're waiting to launch in those moments to launch in the front row. And I was like checking it out. I was like, how am I being supported? Because it doesn't
feel like it.
Because there's a thing on your back. And then I leaned up. I was like, oh, that just moves. That keeps moving. So it was a lot of fun. I knew I was safe. I wasn't too worried, so I was able to be calm for my niece. She loved it. We all loved it and wished we were able to go right back on. I will say, just prepare yourself if you're going to break off into 2 groups to kind of do that. Virtual queue lets you skip, or actually the virtual queue, there is no line you can wait in. But it's a little misleading because you get this return time and you are getting in a line. And
and it was a wait.
For us, it was only... I think the wait was only about 25-ish minutes. Okay. You got to do the locker thing because you don't want anything in your pockets. So by the time we got off and met up, we were separate long enough that it wasn't. You just want to keep that in mind, how long you'll be separate from the rest of your group that doesn't want to do those thrill rides.
That's a good point, because of our group, my mother was the only one that didn't do it. She doesn't do coasters. She's just not a thrill ride person at all. But my father and sister and I did it. We waited an hour.
Oh, wow.
After getting into the virtual queue line. We waited an hour. I felt bad for my mom because she wasn't sitting on the most comfortable bench. Those Tomorrowland benches, not all that comfy.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't be more comfortable in the future.
In the future, you would think we would have figured out back problems, but apparently not, according to Tomorrowland. So same thing. I loved the wait in line. I'm a Tron fan. Growing up, Tron the movie, I just loved it. I always fantasized about running around and throwing those Tron frisbees, the discs around, and all that stuff. I loved that movie. I thought Tron Legacy was a decent movie. I didn't think the story was all that great, but I thought visually it was mind-blowing. It was fantastic. So being in that and experiencing it all around you was really cool. Getting into the thing, and we also got the front row. My father and I rode in the front row,
That seems like a coaster that is
It's a
the
must.
best place.
It really is worth it to ask. It really is. And just go for that front row because there's nothing in front of you. You can see everything. It was so cool. And it has one of my favorite aspects of coasters. I'm a big coaster junkie. I'm a big Cedar Point person. I think Cedar Point is the best place I've ever been to. And I've been to a whole bunch of places as far as coasters. If you're a coaster junkie, Cedar Point's the place to go. But one of my favorite aspects of coasters is when they launch you from a dead stop instead of you climbing up the hill and then going over the hill, a la Rock and Roller Coaster. There's an aspect of that in Everest at one point where you stop and then you get launched again in reverse, which is kind of cool. And they, of course, did that here, which was so cool. But what I wasn't expecting was it launches you and you immediately go outside. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect that. I thought that was going to be the end of the ride, and it's the beginning of the ride.
Yeah. I don't know. People's complaints that it's too short. I get it.
And it is shorter than the one in Tokyo.
Ooh, I guess I didn't know that.
I heard that it is actually shorter because of the space that they had to use, that it is a shorter ride. I heard this from someone who works at Disney. She's a friend of mine. Granted, she works as a bus driver at Disney, but she's pretty connected. She's been working there a long time. I think she was the one that told me that it is actually shorter than its original version.
Yeah, and you don't want that kind of a thrill coaster. Well, I don't know. I will be saying the exact opposite when we talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, because that is a nice long coaster.
That is a good coaster.
But
I like that one. Yeah.
It being short gives people who aren't sure if they can do it, they're going to be able to get on it and hopefully be fine because it's not too long and to kind of deal with that. But I don't know. It's worth it, and I like it.
So, Nick, I liked Tron Light Cycle. I liked it. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I did not love it. Now, granted, maybe I'm a little too much of a coaster junkie. I loved the novelty of it. This is how I feel in general about Disney's coasters as a rule, with two exceptions now. The Rock and Roller Coaster, I think, is a pretty cool coaster. It just moves. I like the way it moves. There's something about listening to Aerosmith while you're cruising on a coaster that's just, it can't be beat. That one is really cool. But as far as like Everest, I'm not a big fan of Everest. It's kind of boring to me. I love the backwards part. That's the part I like. But the rest of it, I'm like, Big Thunder Mountain, it's a nice looking ride and everything, and that's fine, and that's great. Not all coasters have to be made for crazy people. So it is a nice coaster that people can ride and be kind of comfortable in and still get some thrills. Space Mountain, I do still dig. But it's a slow ride. It really is a slow coaster when you think about it. But you're in the dark, so you can't really tell that it's only going about 26, 27, 8 miles an hour.
You notice it more with the holiday lights on because the building is a little bit more lit up, so you can see more of it.
Okay.
But from the time before I went, it did feel a little slower, and it's just perception because I don't think they slow it down for the holidays. I think you just see more of it.
Yeah, I think the number I heard was it's like 25, 27 miles an hour is as fast as that coaster goes, I think. That's wow. Pretty interesting. But, and Tron, I would put on that same kind of level as Everest and Big Thunder for me, in that but the look of the coaster, the experience of the coaster, riding it in the front, all that, fantastic. Just the coaster itself was, it's okay. It's okay, Versus, do you have anything else you want to say about Tron?
I just want to say, based on the look of it, I love the impact it's had on the land visually. I love
the building itself.
Yeah, and the lights, and I think that was a good addition, and we didn't have to lose anything to get Tron, so that helps.
That is a very good point. They didn't take something we love. They didn't take Space Mountain out to put in Tron Cycle Run.
You still have the Speedway.
Great movie ride.
Oh, no.
I'm hurt. I'm still hurt by this. Can you tell, Nick? Can you tell?
Yeah.
I'm still hurt by that. I'm a little bitter about some rides that have been taken out to put new ones in. We have space. That's why they got all that swampland. Don't take away the stuff I love. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, a lot in future episodes, because it was Walt himself who said that it will always be evolving, always be changing, always be growing. Yeah. Sometimes growth means taking some things out, and I get that, but it just breaks my heart. But Tron, it's okay coaster.
Yeah.
Okay coaster.
I could see that.
There's a coaster in another park that you mentioned. that I can't wait to talk about. We're not going to talk about it today, but that is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I kind of dig that coaster. I really do. It is a very unique one. We'll have time to talk about that one. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Did you ride Space Mountain this
We
trip?
did ride Space
I
Mountain.
did not.
Yeah.
Never got on it.
Yeah, we rode more than once. This was a milestone trip for us. So my 10-year-old loved coasters as long as it wasn't dark. He has some sensory issues, and we didn't even try him with Space Mountain just because there's little moments of ride. Big Thunder, the beginning starts dark, and he kind of starts to freak out. But once we go outside, he's fine, and he loves it. He's kind of was our coaster kid in the previous family trip. This other one, the kid that's 2 years younger, didn't really like anything that was too fast, so we took him on a different. I can't remember if we did Barnstormer first. Just like, let's just see if you like it. And then to work our way up to Space Mountain for him. And he really loved Space Mountain.
That's fantastic.
He loved Space Mountain. He loved Big Thunder. He loved the coasters.
Love it.
No, it was too fast. So I was worried it was going to take a little while till we got him to be into roller coasters, if ever. I mean, he could have not, because his favorite attraction still is Hall of Presidents. My 7-year-old's favorite attraction is Hall of Presidents.
Okay. You could have asked me that question. You could have given me 20 guesses, and I would have not landed on the Hall of Presidents.
No, it's his favorite. He's going to be president someday. He's been saying that for well over 2 years now, his obsession with presidents. In history, it's expanded beyond presidents, but that's kind of where it goes back to. Like, when it whips away from presidents, it's come from there. So he knows a lot about he watches YouTube videos about like Queen and the Beatles, but that started from one of his favorite YouTubers talking about people who have performed at inaugurations. So that expanded from there.
Yep.
But we went to Hall of Presidents every time we went to Magic Kingdom. So 3 times. My niece and nephew went twice. The second time it was more of a nap, but people do they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I think the opening half-ish is a little bit more moving than people expect, talking about the history of the presidency and really America. And then I don't know non-Disney people's experience with animatronics, but that is impressive to see. Sometimes it's borderline creepy, but it's impressive to see the 45 individuals standing there, even though their subtle gestures are a little bit...
Yep. Some of them have been tweaked a little bit more than others over time.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. Yeah. That is impressive. And that stage, that theater, seeing, when that curtain opens and they reveal the presidents back there, it is pretty awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
And you'd have to be kind of a communist to not feel a little pride, no matter what side of the aisle you might be on, or whether you're in the middle of the aisle, no matter what your politics. Watching that, you get a little choked up and go, it makes you proud of America's potential.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It doesn't shy away from some things. And,
Yep. Yeah.
But it's still Disney, and they want you to enjoy your day overall. So,
Right. Yeah.
But between that and Haunted Mansion, we spend a lot of time in Liberty Square.
Oh, man. I know. I always try to get at least 2, maybe 3 rides on the Haunted Mansion in. I managed to do that again this time. I would have had 3, except it broke down just as I was waiting in line. And the writing was on the wall that it was probably not going to open back up because this was later in the evening.
Yeah.
So I ditched it. But I had gotten 2 other rides on it. The Haunted Mansion, I got to talk about the Haunted Mansion because they had a special edition that I don't think was there yet when you were there. Did they have the Hatbox Ghost?
He was.
The Hatbox Ghost.
He was there.
The Hatbox Ghost.
Yes.
And I thought the Hatbox Ghost was cool. I didn't think they utilized him much. I thought maybe he'd have a little more. I thought it would have been cool because he's in that spot. Okay, if you don't want to know, if you want to go in and not be spoiled about the Hatbox Ghost until you see it, which was me. I didn't want to know even where it was. I just wanted to go into it cold. If you don't want to know, fast forward like just a couple minutes, okay? Because I'm going to talk about where it is. And it's in that spot where there's that hallway that you would look down, and that used to have that candelabra that was floating down there.
Is the candle still not there?
There anymore.
Why would they get rid of it?
I don't know. And that got me thinking, were they originally thinking of putting the Hatbox Ghost in that hallway walking toward you, or like it was which I think would have been really cool. I don't know how they would do it technologically, but I thought that made me wonder that, and I thought that would have been a cool use of him rather than him just standing there and just boom, his head moves. You know?
Yeah.
It was fine though. It was very well done. And it was just great to see it because it's something that's been talked about for decades and decades, and the Haunted Mansion fans have always wanted the Hatbox Ghost there, and it was good to see that.
Yeah,
so.
and I think for people who don't know about the Hatbox Ghost, it's something that's there that maybe the Endless Hallway for non-Disney fans, people really cared that much about it just looks like a candelabra floating, and maybe people aren't thinking, how are they doing that? With computers and kids the way they're growing up, maybe it wasn't as wow of effect as it was when the original mansion opened up, and this one, so I can see them just wanting something wow.
Jaded
there.
children are the reason we can't have nice things anymore. It's jaded children. It is amazing though. I mean, because I certainly more so than you are old enough to remember even older stuff, and remember what it was like to, where we didn't have computers. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't even have computers. My first computer was an Apple II Plus back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. Having the opportunity to have grown through the technologies, I think makes us appreciate
I think
these
so.
changes even more. Whereas kids, bless their hearts, anyone that was born after Jurassic Park, the movie, came out, can just not appreciate what life was before Jurassic Park, before dinosaurs were real. It's just amazing. But we remember stop motion and, how that was better than nothing, but it never looked quite real. And then we saw a living dinosaur, and now it's kind of similar with these rides.
Well, and I don't know, one of the things that makes me love Disney World is both their ability to make me to kind of just be immersed and forget about it, and my interest of like how do they do that?
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people are still coming in with that mindset in general, because that's not necessarily Disney's intention. They want you to just enjoy your time there. So, but I loved Haunted Mansion. Everyone, I think every single person in our party loved the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway was there's some things in there I wouldn't have thought Disney would do.
It gets
like, the guy who hangs himself that it starts with.
Right. Of course, there's always my way. Really, Disney? You went there, and they've never taken. I always thought, when is the time I'm going to come here?
And that's not.
And they took that out, and they haven't even put like trigger warnings or anything on. I'm like, that's impressive. They weren't afraid to go dark, and I really think. This isn't an episode about the Haunted Mansion. We have to do a Haunted Mansion episode. We do have. But I'm going to spoiler one thing here of what I would talk about on there, and that is the brilliance of that song. I think that song, Grim Grinning Ghosts, that plays throughout this in multiple different ways, both instrumental and then with the vocals and so forth, is the perfect song ever made for a ride. Like, I will go to bat that it is the best song ever. Ooh, do we have another?
I don't know. It's up there.
It's
up there for me, but I think we could talk about a lot of songs.
I think we should make a note of that because and there are some great ones. It's a Small World's great. Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow's great. But I would argue that the Grim Grinning Ghost song is brilliant because it walks that beautiful line of being spooky, scary, comical, whimsical, almost childlike, and it does it perfectly. So whatever you want to hear in it, you'll kind of hear, and it's not just scary. And I think that allowed them to do darker things in that ride than they might have been able to get away with otherwise. I don't know, because it softens things without taking the bite away either.
We'll have to, we have to do a whole hour episode on this, but I think the other beauty, and we could discuss how it happened, if it was intentional or just the two Imagineers that were leads on the project having different visions, but it starts, the guy hanging himself is I think the darkest thing of it.
It's pretty dark.
It gets lighter as it goes on, and you leave singing that song because you were just at a party with these ghosts.
Exactly.
So it's,
I
think it's genius.
It is a genius story. Yeah.
not being afraid of the ghosts, even though they're following you.
I know,
They
yeah.
literally tell all these children that there are ghosts following you home.
That is, it is. You're absolutely right. That is a brilliant way to look at it. It starts out dark. You're not one of them, and by the end, you've become that 1,000th ghost, even if it's just honorary, and you feel part of, like you said, part of the party. I love that.
I got one more thing about the Haunted Mansion. I wish I could remember the cast member's name, but it was late. The line got long. There was 12 of us, and my kids were wearing Jack Skellington zip-ups where the hood comes up, and one of the Haunted Mansion cast members came up, started talking to us about why we were there, my dad's birthday, and they were like, I'll be right back. Then they came back and said, come with me. And we skipped the line. We went right through that little, the servants' quarters.
Yes.
It was Disney magic at its best. It was amazing. An amazing cast member. Just, wow, loved it.
And see, here we are talking about this on a podcast. Here, this is what makes Disney brilliant. This is the brilliance of Disney. That's why I'm so glad Bob Iger is back, because Bob Iger gets that. Bob Iger, I would argue, gets it better than anyone since Walt and Roy Disney. I think he gets that idea that this is about the magic. And they're not afraid, they're encouraging all of their cast members to do these little things constantly for people. To just make it something, because this is what you talk about. When you get home, you talk about how cool the rides were, and the park was cool, and it was really busy, and the weather was nice. But they took us in a different way, and they let us see part of the Haunted Mansion nobody gets to see. We got this special treatment.
Yes.
That's what you talk about.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, she said it was because they looked like they fit in. They should just come right up. And then we got we had this on my son's birthday trip too, that they saw his birthday button and gave him the honorary caretaker card. So it's Pluto and Mickey as the caretaker and the dog.
Yep.
And yeah, so they're honorary caretakers. They're in charge at the Haunted Mansion when they visit.
Oh my gosh,
But it was
that's
amazing.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. I love it. The Disney magic again, and anytime they skimp on that is where I start to question the direction Disney's going. And they've only done that a few times, and they've corrected. For the most part, I've noticed that they seem to right the ship when they do something that's like, that's damaging the magic.
Yes,
we got to stop doing that.
And I think the obvious time they did it was COVID and trying to get things back. I do think that there was a bit of a money grab or money save.
Yep,
to
they're like,
keep
oh,
going
we
with
can
it.
keep doing this because
Yeah.
we had an excuse to do it.
Yes, and we can. This might be a whole nother episode too. What Disney's plans and how they plan to counter Epic Universe opening up down the street. But I do think they're gonna lean more into the Disney magic and more cast members, because I don't think they're going to build anything to compete with the new theme park.
I mean, the only thing I think that they're toying around with is that expansion of what do they call that?
Beyond Big Thunder.
Beyond Big Thunder, right? Yeah, that they're talking about that. But yeah, no new park announcements. I still think they should do a nostalgic Magic Kingdom. But all right, I'm gonna let that go. All the old rides that they've taken out that we love, they should make an entire park that's just those rides. All right.
Let it go, let it go.
We're going to stop. Magic Kingdom. We're still talking Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
So couple of other quick things from my point of view, and
Yeah.
then any other things that you want to add. I want to go back kind of to the experience, the difference in our experiences because of the people we were with too. Did you feel like you got on all the rides you and your fellow Disneyites wanted to get on?
We actually do. And I do think that we went into it the first day at Magic Kingdom as the big group of making sure we were hitting the check. There was a lot of overlap with my family. Haunted Mansion is always a must for the five of us, and that was a must for just about every single one of the 12. One could argue that this birthday trip for my dad was more for the rest of us, but he was a good sport and
He's a good
came
sport.
along. The other one that was a must for a few of us, but my mom's favorite is she loves Pirates of the Caribbean. She loves those movies that we had to do, all 12 of us on Pirates, and then the other one was Big Thunder, and we got to do all of those. So everything else kind of seemed like a bonus. And then we went back the next day, and that's when we got or not next day, but the next time we went to Magic Kingdom, we got to do a lot more other things. Yeah,
Did you get to do Peter Pan?
we did do Peter.
Nice. See, I didn't get on Peter Pan. It's always so long, and I'm sure we'll be visiting this a lot
I don't
as we
think-
talk about lightning lanes and Genie
yes.
Plus and, spending, $18 a person to be able to be sure to ride this. I am very I'm anti Genie Plus. Right? That's the Genie Plus aspect.
Genie
right?
Plus, yes. They try to make Genie sound amazing. The free version where they're giving you tips.
I
But
don't like it.
Genie Plus.
I don't like it just feels like such a money grab, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I get it, because they're making by all accounts, they're making a good amount of money from this. And
Making a lot of money off
it's
of it.
unfortunate, because I remember saying years and years ago that if they ever stopped doing Fast Pass, that I'm not sure how often I will go back to Disney. Fast Pass was a major aspect of what I loved about going to Disney. Anyway, we'll talk about that on a future episode as well. But you can't talk about the Magic Kingdom and not talk about the lines and talk about Lightning Lane. I've never done Lightning Lane, and I've never done Genie Plus.
I think we did Genie Plus. We didn't. This big group. Part of my planning was, what was the 12 of us? What were the things we wanted to do? The 12 of us, knowing hanging out in an hour and a half line isn't a big deal for a group of 12 that doesn't get to see each other that often. So we were just hanging out in the lines. And then we could break up. Like I said, my son with some of the issues he qualifies for DAS Pass. So the way that works is it doesn't matter who, it's how many. So as long as he is going on, he could bring up to 6 guests.
That's
so
great. That's
on
so great.
Any of those things that, like, my dad was like, no way, that's too much for me, or my wife with motion sickness, we were able to kind of break up and make sure that we were, like Big Thunder, we did in like a small group. But we ended up doing it a couple times, especially when the line was a little shorter the first time. So that made it easier to navigate, and that makes it, the DAS Pass makes it so we don't have to buy Genie Plus when it's just the 5 of us.
Yeah, that is nice.
We have never done the Lightning Lane purchase.
Okay.
So, which is the problem is how confusing it is and hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
The Lightning Lane only exists for 1 to 2 rides in each park.
Yep.
And that is paid separate. For Genie Plus, you don't have access to the Lightning
Right.
Lane for those attractions. And I think that makes it even harder to, you just don't know what you should spend money on.
I know, and that's the one I don't like, is the one where you're paying $18 for one ride.
Yes, you're paying for access to the Lightning Lane. That's separate from Genie Plus.
And I get it. People who have a lot of disposable money, and maybe they only are going to get to this park once in 10 years. They want to ride everything they can. It's worth the extra money. I get it. It does feel, the thing I struggle with is that it feels sometimes like, I wonder how Disney would feel about it, in that it does feel like it's catering more and more to the wealthy.
Yes.
That it is excluding people that I cannot, there's no way I can afford to take how you afforded to take a family of 12? I mean, I'm sure you had multiple people that were putting into it, of course. But I mean, I just think of a family of 4, a family of 5. It's going to cost you a freaking fortune to go to Disney World if you're going to hit all 4 parks, and you're going to hit a couple of them more than once, and you want to do the hotels, and you want to stay on property.
It's a lot. It's going to be a long time till we go in December again, because everything costs more. Everything costs more in December. Because of just how they do the pricing.
Yeah.
And it's tough because Disney has in their back pocket, well, people complain about how crowded it is, so we can just keep charging more, and then fewer people might go. Which I think their last earnings report said attendance was down, but revenue was up. So
They're getting
I don't think that's what Disney would want.
Attendance was down. All right, that wasn't the experience I had. All right, the last thing I want to say here is the amount of people that were there. Now, you were there like between Christmas and New Year, or actually a little bit before Christmas, right? On this Magic Kingdom trip, and then you went beyond Christmas. I was there in February, or late January, early February.
Yeah, that should have been the sweet spot.
It sure should have been, man. I'll tell you. We're going to get to this because we're not talking Epcot today. Epcot was the busiest I think I've ever seen it.
Wow.
Busiest I think I've ever seen it. It was madhouse. Granted, it was the art
Festival of the Arts.
Festival of the Arts.
Farts.
It was farts. That's clever. I get it. That was going on, but it wasn't like it was the Food and Wine Festival, which I kind of expect that one. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Magic Kingdom. was pretty bloody busy when we were there. There just is not. I don't think there are slow times at Disney anymore. I mean, put in the comments, anyone watching this, if you've gone recently, sometime in the last year or so. Let's skip COVID, obviously, and getting back up to speed after COVID. But like over the last year, or even just before COVID, when you've gone there and you feel it's been slow, I'd like to hear about that, because every time I've been there recently, it's been pretty busy, and this was a pretty busy time for us. How was it for you?
Wasn't too bad. When the 5 of us went, it was earlier in December to Magic Kingdom at the beginning of that trip, and we strategically chose a day that there was a Mickey's Very Merry, so we had to leave by 6, but we were fine with that. We were leaving Animal Kingdom lunch to move to Caribbean Beach that day, which Disney does for you, magic. So we didn't mind getting to Caribbean Beach, but the crowd level was low because people didn't want to pay on a day you had to leave early. So we didn't mind. Our kids got up early. We had like 10 hours, so it seemed fine. I use touring plans to help me, touringplans.com, and they do crowd calculators. Okay. That day with Magic Kingdom, it's a 1 to 10, 10 being maximum occupancy. It was a 3 that day. So when we went back, it was a 6 or 7. And then on the 28th, which was the day, this was that negotiating with the group. We want to go to Magic Kingdom twice. And I was like, it's going to be a lot busier, but they don't. It was fine. It definitely had a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot more crowded, and some people kind of tailored off and left a little earlier, which made it easier for a smaller group to stay later and use the DAS Pass to enjoy the park, then go on an attraction. So for those who don't know how DAS Pass works, you still have to wait. They give you a return time, but you don't wait in line. So you can still, that's when you can go bathroom breaks, shop, grab something to eat, and then go do your return time. So
there's a part of me that wonders why they don't do that for everyone, because think of how much more stuff they would sell if you didn't have to spend time
food they would eat, shopping.
I don't know how they'd ever do it. I'm sure it's logistically, if you had that many people.
I don't want to fill you with rage, but wasn't that Fast Pass? You got to do it 3
yes,
times.
I know. Fast Pass worked. Fast Pass worked.
And and they do have, actually, I think it's only 2 attractions right now. The virtual queue, which is free. Right. You just have to sometimes get up at 7 a.m. and if you're staying on property, that's the other advantage, is that you don't have to, if you're off property, you can't do that until you scan into the park, I believe. Right. Whereas I could wake up and
they're all gone by that time. When we did ours, when we got up to do Tron Light Cycle Run, we were ready at 6:45 refreshing because at 7 o'clock it would go live. By 7:03.
Fast.
All of them were gone until the 1 o'clock where they free more up.
Yep.
3 minutes. We just got ours. When we tried to do Guardians of the Galaxy, we couldn't get one.
Oh, man.
And both my dad and I were on our phones refreshing. And refresh. And then all of a sudden it said, none are available.
What was going on to get people so busy then?
I don't know. That was Epcot. So Epcot was insane. It was just so many people.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Epcot was perfect like that. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that.
we'll talk about that. Yeah. So we got to talk about something else, because I'm watching the time. Look at this. Okay, we intended coming into this to talk about 2 parks today.
Wah, wah.
I don't think because we don't want to shortchange it. There's still stuff we could talk about the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Do you have more things you want to talk about it?
I do, but I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay.
I think.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do a real quick 30 seconds per point for any last minute things that we want to say. But before we do that, we were going to talk about Hollywood Studios today. We're not going to do that now. We're going to call an audible here. This is the only time you will ever hear me make a sports reference, by the way. Anyone who knows me is like, Julian, you just made a sports reference? Good for you. I even know what sport that refers to. Huh? Soccer. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be football. The American soccer football. Is football. I know, right? Yeah. See, I even know that. Yeah. Football. So anyway, we're going to call an audible here, and we're going to actually break this into 4 episodes. We're going to talk about each park. We might even make it 5, because we also want to talk about Disney
trip
Springs
planning,
and trip planning and hotels. We have tons of content coming up here. If you're enjoying this at all, real quick here before we move on and before we wrap up this episode, if you're enjoying anything that you saw here, please, we'd love for you to subscribe. Not for us, okay? I don't ever recommend somebody subscribe to a channel because the person that's on there is begging them to subscribe. That doesn't matter. It's our job to bring you content that you're enjoying. And if you enjoyed any of this, if you enjoyed, look at that face. Look at that face. Look at that face. I mean, if you enjoyed that face, if you could tolerate this face.
Yeah, subscribe and put it on mute.
Exactly. Whenever I'm on the screen, black it out. When Nick's on there, go, oh, it's Nick. Right? I love it. But if you got any value out of this, we are really enjoying this because, again, if you can't tell, we're passionate about this. We're coming at it from different angles. We've got a lot of things to say. You might agree. You might disagree. We also want you to interact. Please comment below. Our goal here is, because we're just getting this started right now as of this video, our plan is to respond to every comment that you send in. I didn't run this by you, Nick.
Yeah, I'm good with you responding to every comment that comes in.
I know what my job is. I want you to make this challenging. I want you to make this difficult. My goal is at least to respond to every comment that comes in because we want this to be a back and forth discussion, not just between us, but between us and you as well.
And I don't think we talked about it at the top of this one, but go back and watch the first one. One of the other things our goal here is we don't live near Disney World. We don't get to go a lot. So we kind of want to bring that magic home for ourselves, but for you, we want this to feel kind of more like a conversation. We're talking about our last trips. We're talking about what we hope to see, and we want you to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone who is not able to go to Disney World every day, that doesn't live in Orlando, I don't think that means that we don't love it just as much. We just can't go as often as we would like to. So when we go, we jam pack it full of goodness. We get every last little drop of Mickey blood. Okay, that doesn't sound right. We get
pixie dust.
Pixie dust. We get every little ounce of pixie dust we can get out of that trip because we don't get to do it nearly as often as we would like. And that's what the basis of these conversations are going to be. Yeah. All right, so couple of just last minute things. 30 seconds per point. You take one, I'll take one. You go first.
I wanted to hit those extra characters, which I know he was there before, but it was just magic for my mom. Jack Sparrow was out meeting people, so we got lots of great pictures. My niece and nephews thinks my dad looks like Mr. Gibbs. I forget what his little sidekick. So they got some pictures that might have been my dad's favorite part.
Love it.
Do you want me to just keep going?
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
The other thing is, I don't think I've appreciated Storybook Circus more. It was so much fun. That's like the last part of Fantasyland we think to go to, but my kids love meeting Daisy and Minnie and Goofy and Donald, and Dumbo in a big crowd is still great because they got to go on the play area and we got to sit while they were playing. So that I wish Disney had more. I know they have some interactive cues, but the fact that they give you a pager and the kids can just play it for little kids, but it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And I can't think of anything more magical than meeting Santa in Magic Kingdom.
Santa, was he wearing Mickey ears?
He was not wearing Mickey ears.
How did they miss that?
It also wasn't a long line because, and I think this was on purpose. Well, first of all, perfect theming of where he was, but we were like, what is back there? I think I see a line. And there were only like 5 families in front of us.
Yeah.
It was right behind Ye Old Christmas Shop.
So
it was tucked away. It was only because there was 5 or 6 families in the line that we saw people. I was like, let's explore down this little pathway.
That's such a great little alley anyway. That little spot tucked behind. I know exactly where that was. What a great location for that.
Yeah, it was great.
Very cool. All right. Was that your last one?
We also got to experience Country Bears for the last time in its current.
I am jealous about. I am jealous that you got to see it. I mean, I've seen it a lot. I can't complain. But, one more knowing that this was the last of this version. Country Bears, they're coming back.
And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. I loved it. I'm excited to see something different.
Yep. I think it's time. As well. It's been a great ride. But I'm glad they're not taking them out, which is what I was a little worried that they were going to do, and they didn't. So that's great. The last thing that I want to say here is, first of all, the experience of just getting to be in that park again. That is the magic. I didn't ride maybe quite as many rides as I normally would at the Magic Kingdom that particular day. but I also didn't feel like I missed anything, you know, I because we were just walking around and just enjoying these little nooks and crannies, and we would sit in a spot we had never sat before and just, you know, watch people go by and watch them with their kids and just, you know, how they're enjoying it. And you get to experience it from a bird's eye view in a way, you know, in a way that only someone who's been able to do Disney a number of times in their lives could really experience it. And then last but not least, I have to mention one of the hidden gems at the Disney Magic Kingdom, at Disney World's Magic Kingdom, is the laugh floor in Tomorrowland. I love the laugh floor so much. I just love it. I can't, it's one of my mom's favorite things too. That's the one thing. The two things she wants to do is Jungle Cruise and the laugh floor. And you know what? I gotta say, every single time I do the laugh floor, I smile. I have a great time, and I just think that technology is so cool.
Yeah.
Of that real time animated character that's interacting with the audience. You're looking at me like, how do you feel about the laugh floor? Give it to me.
It's not my favorite attraction at Magic Kingdom or even Disney World. I enjoyed it. I enjoy it because my kids enjoyed it the first time we went. But I literally was like, I don't ever have to do that again. Then we went, all 12 of us, because that's an easy one.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what's nice is what's really great about Magic Kingdom is no matter how busy it is, it's not hard to get on at least an attraction. If you just are there to enjoy the experience and be there, there's a lot that you can do, whether or not you can get onto Tron or if Big Thunder's a long line. But there's a lot you can do, and we had a lot of fun. And Laugh Floor was a lot more fun that second time I did it with the big group. So we really, I did enjoy it. I'd be sad if they replaced it, but
Okay.
But
All right.
yeah, it's always hard to pick a least favorite attraction in any park, but I think I have one in Magic Kingdom. But I still enjoy it.
Wait, you like it less than the Tiki Birds?
I like the Tiki Bird.
You like the...
I like the Tiki. Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. It's not Walt Disney's Laugh Floor.
We have to talk. We have to talk, Nick. I love this. Okay, no. Hey, you know what? Love what you love about Disney, and love it without any shame at all, even when it's the Tiki Birds. All right, I love it. Well, with that, Nick, we should probably wrap up this episode because, wow. Okay, our intention, best laid plans, man. But you know what? We go with the flow, and there's so much to talk about. We could talk even longer, but next episode, we're going to get into Disney Hollywood Studios.
Yes.
We're going to get to that one next. We're going to dive into it. We're going to go just as deep. On behalf of myself and then Nick, I'll give you the last word here. I'm Jolly Julian. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for subscribing. If you got value out of this and would like to see and hear more, please feel free to like this and share it with any other Disney fan, fanatic, casual Disney person that you may know that you think might get joy out of this. Nick, take us out of here for today.
Well, take us out of here. Well, Monsters versus Birds. That's what I want to see in the comments. But thank you so much for joining us in this discussion. Is that a Disney pun?
Discussion.
Should I do that? Should we leave on a pun? Is that a pun?
That was a dad pun, but it was a pun, and you're a dad, so it works. I like that.
Yeah.
This discussion.
Yeah, so
I like it.
from Grim Grinning Nick and Jolly Julian, thanks for joining us for this discussion.
All right, catch you on the next one. I